Okay, Midnight Charlie Man, Midnight Quarter, Midnight Song, Patrick Kieran here, Patrick Kieran. I was upstairs, I'm in frame, got the, I've got the newer setup, first things first, one thing at a time. Right, okay, so I was upstairs in the lounge, I was on YouTube, I was on the YouTube homepage, and I was thinking about filming, and because, okay, one thing at a time, I got many thoughts at once. I was thinking about filming, and then I got really excited about filming, and I thought about a few things, so I thought, I want to come down here. So I got my newest stand, which I got off eBay. I bought it about a year ago, and I thought I'll come down here again. I'm using the newer light today. This is the newer light with the tungsten, with the orange. This is the newer light, so I've got the stand just there, and hopefully that's doing okay. That's all right. So I need to bring it closer, perhaps. Let me just see. That should be okay. Okay. So the light's on. It's all set up. It's actually very good here in the garage. It's very good. Indeed-o. And Dollar Chill, the Inner West is the best. Dollar Chill, the Inner West. Yes. And also another task, another mission is to get this garage like a little sanctuary. At the moment, I've got boxes everywhere, but I enjoyed. I went upstairs and I looked at the footage. This is a slice in Sega World. I said 96 before. It was the very end of 96. It was the training started in around about November or December of 96. I can't really remember now. And then started in 96. Sega World opened in Darling Harbour in early 97. I left Sega World in August of 1998, and I had a new job by September. So I moved on very quickly. I had a new job within 3 weeks actually, and I couldn't. Over the years, it's become a vague. I was going to say something and I forgot. I was going to say something, I did forget what it was. But oh, that's right. I did a radio course, studio producing radio. Okay. In about 1996. It was 1996. I decided I wanted to be a DJ. I just wanted to be a radio DJ. I just wanted to do that. I wanted to just do some sort of radio program. And so I called up 2NBC Radio. I called them up for some reason. I said, okay, so 2NBC. 2NBC is at Nawi Baptist Church. And I said, oh, I just want to sit behind the desk and want to do a show, DJ show. They said, oh, okay. This is not really that simple, but we do have a 10-week radio course. Actually, maybe I should say this for a different video. Perhaps I should say this for a different video. Actually, I might say this for a different video. Tell you what, I'll say it, and I'll cut it out if I feel like it. Okay, so I called them up. They had a 10-week program, an introduction to radio, and I attended this program. Bruce McNeely, at the time, was the manager of 2NBC Radio, and he took the class every week. He was quite an interesting man, a very knowledgeable man, many years of experience in radio, and everything that I had said to him on the phone, he said, look, mate, I'm going to be covering all that in the course. It's a free course, very worthwhile doing. I highly recommend that you do it. So I attended every week. I can't remember what day of the week it was, and I went to 2NBC, introduction to radio. It's not what it was called, but it was an introduction to radio. It was about 8 of us there. It was a nice small class. There was 8 of us there, and That was really good. It was a free course. And I remember there was about 4 weeks left, and then one night Bruce McNeely did not turn up. Jonathan Halls turned up instead. Jonathan Halls is the host of The Breakfast Show. Okay, I gave the impression that Jonathan Halls was... I gave the impression that Jonathan Halls is the host of the breakfast program. Okay, Jonathan Halls was the host of the breakfast program at 2NBC back in 1996. Yes, Jonathan Halls was the host of the breakfast show in 1996. Yes. And he turned up, he did the class, and afterwards he said, "Mate, what are you up to?" I said, I said, "I'm just enjoying this course, I do it." And I don't know what I said a few other things, and he said, "You want to be a studio producer?" I said, "Studio producer?" I said, "I have no idea what that is." And he said, "I need you." He said, "I think you'd be a good studio producer." And he said, "I think you can start for me next week." I'm like, I said, "I don't know what it is." He said, "Okay, no problem." He said, "It's okay. It doesn't matter. And it's all vague now, but the next day or something, I went to visit the station actually." He said, come to the station. "What are you doing tomorrow?" I drove back to the station the next day. I drove to the next day, went there, and he had a chat with me. He showed me the studio. He said, "This is going to be your booth here. This is what we do." And he went, rah, rah, rah. And he said, "Right, great. Can you start Wednesday morning?" I'm like, "Oh, he said, "You'll be fine. Don't worry." I got thrown in the deep end. So a couple of mornings later, I turned up at 2NBC Studios around about 5 o'clock in the morning, and where I printed out the weather report and made a few phone calls to some local politicians, because Jonathan Halls would interview local politicians, and so I would call them up about 5 minutes before their interview was to take place and say, "Hey, you're going to be on the air in about 5 minutes." I would read the weather out, and I got thrown in the deep end, and it was a bit scary, and it took me a few shifts to adjust, and because he gave me some good brief words of encouragement. He said, "No, you can do it. It's all right. You can do it. You'll do it. You're fine. You'll be fine." I'm like, "Ah!" And I did that. I did that for a while. So I would also read out community announcements. Now this is a slicing. I have remembered this. I would also read out community announcements, and Jonathan Halls would give those to me, and he'd say, have a quick read through it, and he'd read it out in 2 minutes. And I remember, this one would have been a few of them. There was one particular one, and I was having trouble with one of the sentences, and he said, "It's all right, mate, you can do it." And I said, "I'm having real trouble with it," and I was really avoiding this particular one, because there'd be a few that he would get me to read out, and so I would read the easy ones. And there was one particular day, and he'd say, "Right, here you go, you read this," and he said, "All right." And he said, "All right, now we're going to hear from Patrick Kieran with a community announcement." He said, "Now we're going to hear from Patrick Kieran with a community announcement." And I'm starting to read, I'm like, "Oh, this is the one I can't do, this is the one I'm having trouble with." I didn't say that, I was just like, in my mind, like, "Oh." And I tripped up on the sentences. I got through it, but I did it, and the point is that he got a real chuckle out of that. He said, "Thanks, Patrick." And then afterwards he's like, I'm like, "Oh, this is the one." He's like, "I know." He had a bit of a chuckle. He's like, "Yeah, I know." He said, "That was fun." And he got a bit of a chuckle out of that. I thought that was quite funny. I'm like, "That's the one I was having trouble with." He's like, "Yeah, I know." And so he thought that was quite funny. And looking back on it, I think my personality was a little bit different at the time. I think I was different back then, but I enjoyed reading the community announcements, and however, with some of them, the wording was a lot for me, and I'd be like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Oh, okay." So here you go. So just read out the community announcements. I did finish the course. I did finish doing it, and Bruce McNeely said, "Mate, you're a studio producer for Jonathan." Yeah, yeah. He said, "That's." He said, "He had big radio boy. He said, studio producer for Jonathan Halls. He said, yes, it's very good, jolly good. Yes, it's very, very good-o. He always used to say good-o. Bruce McKinley. I hope he's still with us. I don't know if he's still with us because he's a good guy. He's long departed from 2NBC radio station though, and so I did. I was Jonathan Hall's studio producer. Then that's when Seeger World Sydney came. I got to make sure I'm on record. If I'm saying all this, I'm on record. That's when 2NBC came. Not when Seeger World Sydney came into the picture, and yeah, it came into the picture through a particular avenue at the time, and I remember I called up. I said to Jonathan Halls, I said, I've got a job. I'm going to Seeger World Sydney. It'll be a ride operator. He said, okay. I said, so I'm leaving here. I'm going to leave here. And he said, and he was really upset. He was like, what do you mean you're leaving? I said, oh, I'm not going to be staying here longer. A new opportunity, and I'm going to go to Seeger World Sydney and be a ride operator. He's like, oh, okay. So pretty much what he said. Oh, you're going to throw away your radio career. And I'm like, well, I'm not throwing it away. I'm just taking this new opportunity. Anyway, he wasn't very happy about it. He wasn't too happy about it because, as far as he was, I mean, in some respects, he had this particular point of view, which he said, oh, because you could be on a good path here. You're a studio producer, and you can go into different things after this. You could, when you're ready to. And so I just cut that short. I said, oh, I really appreciate what I said. I really appreciate what I've had here. I'm very thankful for it. I really appreciate it a great deal. And I was just very thankful for the experience. I said, but I'm just going to move on. I just got this opportunity. Anyway, so I went to Seeger World Sydney and started working at Seeger World. But that was an interesting time. I did that. It was good. I still remember those days. They were quite good. You meet someone, they say, can you do this? And you're like, oh, no, you'll be fine, you'll be right. And you go, yes. Okay, so, but because these things are so long ago, sometimes I forget, it was something to the effect of, so it's, yes. I said, yes. I just said, I've just been offered this job, it's a new opportunity. And he said, oh, okay. He said, so, all right, I've taken this job. I said yes to it. And he said, oh, right, well, he said, that's fantastic, right, yeah. And he said, oh, well, and he said, oh, all right, that's what you want, okay, great. He said, and he wasn't very pleased about it. He was like, oh, well, all right, best of luck, mate. And and being at the radio station was a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed it, and I got a lot from it. I have fond memories of Jonathan Halls too. He's a good guy, a very good guy, very knowledgeable guy. It was a bit of an awkward. It was an awkward departure. A bit of an awkward departure. Okay, all right then. See you later. Anyway, slicing. I'll put that back to what I was saying. I had numerous conversations with Jonathan Halls. So very, very good conversations. Very intelligent, knowledgeable, interesting man. After the breakfast show had finished, Jonathan Halls had many things to do, and we'd have a bit of a chat. And as I said, I can't remember the other guy's name, but he worked at the radio station, and Jonathan Halls and this other, his name might have been Matthew, I really can't remember. And just would end up having long chats with this other guy. Jonathan Halls would be getting on with his day because he'd have to organise the next day's program. And then there was Chris, who was an assistant in the studio. Chris was he did bartending all night, and then he'd rock up to the station in the morning, and I just didn't get along with Chris. We shared a couple of words, that was about it. He never hung around afterwards, he would always leave, and that was it. Didn't have much to say to each other, didn't really get along. And I didn't get along with Chris. He was very... I occasionally attempted to share a few words with him, occasionally attempted conversation, didn't really get very far. I remember there was a few mornings where Jonathan Halls wouldn't turn up, wouldn't be able to come into the show, and so Chris would take the lead. He would sit in. He would host the show while I was in the other booth, and Chris and myself got along amicably enough to do a show. Did my job. Anyway, nonetheless, and Chris was actually quite competent at hosting the breakfast show when he did so. He was actually quite good at it. I think that and in fact, one morning I turned up at the radio station because I'm not entirely sure what time I get there. It was reasonably early, about 5 a.m. And I got there one morning and there was a note from, I think either Jonathan Halls had called me or Bruce McNeely had called me, or one of them had called me, and there was a note left. And I got there, and Jonathan Halls couldn't make it. Chris wasn't there. Chris couldn't be there for some reason. I'm very certain that other guy's name was Chris. He always brought his own headphones. Okay, so I get to the radio station and I'm going to do the show by myself. They said, "You've got to do the show by myself." I said, "Don't be political. Don't, if you're going to read something from the newspaper, just tread lightly." Now, I was actually very immature at the time. I was very immature, so I wasn't politically minded. I'm still not politically minded. But I was very immature at the time, and I was very a bit serious at the time. I had a sense of humour, but not like I have now. I was a bit serious, but I was immature and a bit serious back then about things. And so I hosted the breakfast show by myself one morning. I got there, got into the studio, turned on the console desk, and I think Jonathan called me. And he didn't sound well. He said, "Don't worry about the interviews. Obviously, don't do any interviews. Speak about some things." And I was told not to get political about anything. I said, "Oh, no, I won't do any of that stuff." And he said, "You'll be fine." And what did I say? I can't remember what I said. I said, "Oh, hi, Patrick Kieran. I'm sitting in for Jonathan Hall. Patrick Kieran is sitting in for Jonathan Hall today at 2NBC Radio. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? I got the paper, local paper in front of me. What's the headline?" I read out a couple of headlines, but didn't go any further with it. I was like, I think I spoke a bit about music. I spoke a bit about music. I talked about the weather. I can't remember what I talked about. Went for about an hour and a half. I don't know if Chris came in during that. Chris didn't come in during that time. I was completely on my own that day. Someone might have come in at the very, very end, and can't remember exactly what I talked about. Read through the newspaper a little bit, and I said, "So Jonathan Halls will return tomorrow, and thank you for tuning in to 2NBC Radio today. Thanks for listening." And I got through it, and then I received a couple of phone calls at the end saying, yeah. They said, "Yep, hey, good job, Pat. Good job. You got through that. It was terrific. You did well." And it was the only time I hosted it, and so I did get to host the breakfast program once. This is so I'm on unbelievable. This is going to be sliced in. I'm on very low battery. I have to constantly charge this. Now, I was speaking yesterday about 2NBC, and this has been on my mind all day and all night. Okay, so what it is that in regard of what was I going to say? Yeah, in regard to NBC and how I did studio producing, it was a voluntary thing. It was voluntary, and not that didn't mean any less to me. It wasn't paid for it. I think occasionally Jonathan Halls gave me a bit of petrol money. As I said, the position didn't mean any less to me in that sense. It was a fascinating, interesting adventure. I learned a lot from it. Even it didn't pay me anything, but it was just the experience in itself, which was quite valuable to me. And I also wanted to. Well, a couple of things I just didn't include is that after the breakfast show had finished, I didn't just go home. I would actually hang around for a while because Jonathan Halls would get me to do a few things like organise bits and pieces of the. After I was got the hang of things, which after about a fortnight of being there, after I got the hang of things, Jonathan Halls would get me to organise small bits and pieces of the next day's show, whatnot. But and just in general, I would tend to hang around there for a while. I'd tend to hang around the office to NBC there because there was another assistant there, and I'd have long chats with him. So sometimes maybe I wouldn't leave there till 11:30 a.m. We'd just get chatting. Jonathan Halls wasn't always a particular fan of the long chats. He was trying to get things done, and I was yapping away, chatting away, and he was sort of throwing me a look or two here and there, thinking, "Come on, mate, just get it done. You know, can't chat all day." And so I get the odd look, but because the other guy in the office say, "Oh, he'd tell me stories. He'd just, we'd chat." Okay, now the night that I met Jonathan Halls, we had a long discussion, we had a long chat, we talked about all sorts of things, and then sort of, I don't know where it was, he just said, "Look, I need a new studio producer. Mine's just left me." He said, "I need a new studio producer, and you're it." He pretty much said that. I think he might have said, "How do you feel about it?" I don't even know if he said that. He said, "You're it." And so that went from there. But I had great. Jonathan Halls was very good to me, and but when Sega World came along, the opportunity for that, what was I going to say? At the same time that Sega World came along, I had an interview for Dimmicks at Darling Harbour, and I think I got it. And then I had 4 interviews for Sega World. For some reason, I had 4. And the boss called me up, Kim. She said, "Oh, yeah, you got the job, got it." And I said, "Look, it's just a bit of a thing. I just wanted to let you know that I had an interview with Dimmicks, Darling Harbour, and they've said yes." And she said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Let me ask you this. What do you want to do? You want to have fun all day, operating rides, talking to many different people, walks of life, or do you want to work in the bookstore?" As a kind of what I had previously worked in the bookstore, it's not fun. Love reading books. Working in a bookstore, not so much. I said, "Or do you want to work at Dimmicks?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll come to Sega World." And so yes, I did have numerous conversations with Jonathan Halls, and he would get on with his workday afterwards. And I mean, at least 70% of the time I would hang around the office afterwards, just hang around to NBC and do and I organised a couple of things that I was. Jonathan said, "Look, you organise this stuff. You can do that now." It was always a bit of a task for me, but I did it. All very small things. I think interviews for the next day, whatnot, I can't remember now. It was very good, and I was treated very well there. I was treated very well, and I was treated well by everyone actually. Yeah, I'm coming back to say these things now today because I felt like as I was watching the footage back, and I felt like I had not elaborated well enough on certain aspects of what I was saying, and so I came down here to clear that up. Midnight Charlie Man, Patrick Kieran, and that's very good. I think this light is working right too now. It's very good. And a little bit, maybe do a little bit more with the background. Going to and turn this garage into a very I said keep tidy. It has to be organised. And by the way, yesterday my 2 front teeth. I had my 2 front teeth restored. I got them back. I haven't had them for about 2 years. It's a bit weird having them back, but I got them back. And then thank you to my partner for organising that. Thank you to Michelle. And so new teeth, and very good. Yes, so those are the things that I wanted to cover, and I was like, well, I'll just leave them out, and I'm like, and it was bugging me, so I had to come back down and do this. I think I'll include this on the same thing. To conclude, I don't usually do a conclusion, but to conclude, I had so that is when Sega World Sydney came into the picture. and I moved on to SeaWorld Sydney after that, and Jonathan Halls was very generous to me in all respects. And in regard to that petrol money, I think he did give me petrol money a few times a week. It's very vague now. He gave me petrol money a few times a week. He was very generous to me. He did a lot for me. And something I had mentioned, Jonathan Halls, great sense of humour, funny man. He created a light-hearted atmosphere. He was serious. He got the job done. He was motivated to get the job done, but he wasn't one of these hyper guys that like, gotta get it done. He was goal orientated. He was serious, but he was light-hearted, and he told jokes. He was a funny man, and he brought that to the job. I don't even think he treated it like a job. Because it was part of his passion. It was something that he felt very strongly about. So I don't think he treated it like a job. He just really wanted to be there. I also wanted to be there because it was a very good thing, very good experience. Because I kept remembering things and so yes, so yes. And yes. Let's see how this went, eh?